The station where our veterans' voices are heard. MBR Talk.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at nbradio.us.
There it is. You tuned into the Farron Dozier Show on nbradio.us, Tennis Talk Edition, and Live Sports. Catch me here Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, only on nbradio.us. Shout out. How did I do? Was that a good take? That might work. Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm blessed, my brother. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Hey, did you see the game last night?
Oh, that was a good game.
But did you see the shot?
I lost money from that shot.
Oh, man, that shot was cold,
I
man.
hated it, but it was good. Damn. What's in those jeans?
You really want to know?
I do.
Exhaustion, muscle spasms, asthmatic issues, unexpected sickle cell trait crises.
Damn. Are you serious? When I was young, I found out I had sickle cell trait. My mom's told me, but I ain't have no knowledge of it. But when I got older, I had a child, and the doctor told me my daughter has sickle cell trait. Do you know the facts that both parents have sickle cell trait? There's a 50% chance the child may have the trait, and 25% chance the child may have the disease.
Hey, that's what's the count. Do you know that 2.5 million people in the United States have sickle cell trait, 300 million people globally? I didn't find out I had sickle cell trait until I was in the Army, 10 years. Next thing you know, I had a sickle cell trait exertion site.
Sickle cell? I thought that was a black gene or something.
Nah, man, the Latin community is number 2. 1 out of 36,000 babies are being born with sickle cell disease. You could be Caucasian, Mediterranean, European. You gotta know your bloodline, man. There is an inherited gene in our community that has been forgotten. The name is sickle cell trait. WDCONSCT, also known as What's the Count, is out to bring awareness, education, and prevention to people all over the globe. Want more information? Call us now at 323-215-5384 or visit www.wdconsct.org. All right, good evening and welcome to another episode of the Farron Dozier Show on MB Radio, y'all. That's right. We back on Wednesday. Again, thanks for listening in. If you want more information about the platform here, MB Radio, go to nbradio.us. They are giving veterans a voice. I am one of those veterans. Also, our first responders. So we have different types of shows here. You can definitely go and check out. If you see something that you like, you can definitely donate to the platform. They provide all the services for us for no charge here. And so I'm blessed to be able to have this platform and share with my brothers and sisters at arms and have some different conversations here on this platform. You can catch me also on Sunday nights at 8 p.m. on KCAA Radio, the NBC affiliates of the NBC Sports, CSNBC News, and NBC News. So you can catch us over there, 8 o'clock p.m. of the Farron Dozier Show as well. That PSA that you heard over there, yes, that is my number one cause, sickle cell trait awareness. I experienced that in the military, collapse, and I had some life-threatening complications with that. That pretty much ended my career. And so here I am in front of you after doing a lot of work around that and my health and my mental health. And so my brothers and sisters that are listening or that watch this, I recommend cognitive behavior at the VA. If you can get into a CBT therapy session over there, I think it's about 12 weeks. Please, I did that a couple years back. Definitely helps grab those thoughts put them through those curriculums, those conversations, and you will realize that a lot of the things that we think about are so exaggerated from the past that it keeps us feeling stuck. You're not really stuck, but it keeps us feeling like we're stuck, right? So that's what I recommend. Number one, and my sister, check this out. My sister's in the mental health conversation, and she had recommended that to me in like 2016. I didn't take it until what 2015, 2020. Yeah. So a few years later, I finally remember what she said, and she recommended that, which because she heard what I was dealing with, and she recommended that course there. So that's my number one cause there. So if you want information about sickle cell trait, please go to wdconsect.org. You can get information there. All the conversations are there, from athletes to military to some of these issues of sudden death and collapse and what's the cause and rhabdomyolysis. So you can get a lot of information there. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to me anytime. And what else? Oh, the IE Hounds. I'm a part of the Inland Empire Hounds. They are a professional ABA basketball team. They are in season this year, 2025. So we're looking for branding partners. We're looking for a couple of conversations to push that community outreach forward. The number one campaign for that one is For the Love of Dogs. Yes, since we are the IE Hounds, what better way to have a conversation about supporting our pets? And we're starting off with the dogs. So we're looking for breeders all the way through grief counselors for people like myself who had to put their dog down and never really dealt with that part of grief. And so here's an opportunity for us and one of my business partners to have conversations about our dogs, and then also there's a huge crisis across the country around our pets and euthanization and vaccine. I mean, spay and neuter, just all of that. Just a large crisis, foster and things like that. So we are going to take care of that in the San Bernardino County, the Inland Empire. This year's that's the campaign, so you can join that. Of course, we got some mental toughness conversations. We're gonna have some basketball camps, the sickle cell trait talks, all that, plus whatever you want to talk about. So that platform is shared with the community. So if you have a cause and you want to use one of our home games to bring awareness, invite your community out and support a game, and then we'll give you some time before, during, and after the game to share what that cause is, right? So we are sharing that platform. So make sure you go there, iehounds.com. You could go there. You could also find it at farrond.com as well if you want to check that out. Let's see what else we got for some notes. Oh, this past Sunday, definitely had a great time sharing the word with on Youth Sunday at the New Earth Christian Church. Part of that conversation was about just what it is. You may hear scriptures, and you may hear the scriptures about mountains and valleys and walking in the shadow of in the valley of death and fear no evil, all that, right? So my question was to the youth and their parents was, what is your mountain and what is your valley, right? And for me, my mountain is my character, my behavior, because that's what I had to go to work on. But also, what is my valley? My valley were my emotions, right? So we talk about the fruit of the spirit. We talk about, who we get to be as Christ was. And so a lot of times our language traps us with those mountains and with those valleys because we really don't say what we're dealing with. And what is that? And I wrote down, why is it hard for us as people to surrender? Right? Why is that so hard for us? And I wrote down a couple of things I'm going to read to you. It says that the number one thing was we trust ourselves more than we trust God. Even if we say we trust him, we often think our plan, timing, or method is safer. Right? That's normal. That's what most of us think, that I got to control my outcomes. I can handle this guy. Don't worry about it. I got it. Well, maybe that might be something that is getting in the way of your peace of mind. Another one is we attach identity to control. Letting go can feel like losing who we are because of our opinions, plans, or defenses have been part of our survival. And that's, again, part of the human being condition is to survive. So it's really hard for us to give up control to even another person because our identity, and I got to have control, and I got to feel like I'm not losing myself. I know you heard people say that. Even in relationships, I felt like that. Like you have to lose yourself in relationships or when you plan something. Like that's just a normal human being function. The third one is the fear of the unknown. Now still experience every now and then, I got to catch it. The future of uncertainty. God's way often means walking without the full picture, and our flesh wants guarantees. There's nothing like a guarantee on a box, right? So you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. You ever heard that in the movies? Yeah. So the fear of the unknown. A lot of times it's hard to surrender, things in our life because of what's going to happen. There's a lot of opinions, a lot of opinions, a lot of opinions. Like, what's in it for him? What's in it for them? What's in it for her? What's in it for him? What's in it for me? And then you go through all these opinions and then you don't take any action. And then you feel or you experience being stuck, probably. Whatever that is for you in your language. The fourth one is pride and self-reliance. Now, there's a part of us that, in our soul, mind, will, and emotions, we need to have that self-reliance, right? But then there's a part of us that want to be connected to the community and be around people and in fellowship and love one another. But again, sometimes that pride or self-reliance gets in the way. I look at it from being disappointed, shame, embarrassment. Of course, how can you give up control of things if you've been disappointed in people? But what about if you've been disappointed in yourself? What about if you have shame, embarrassment? I can't give control. What happens if this doesn't turn out like I expected to? And then you walk around embarrassed or shame or disappointed. The same strength that helps us climb mountains can make us stubborn in the valleys. And that's why I connected those two between the mountain and the valley, because the activities of your behavior and then your experience. Sometimes we feel like we hit a brick wall or whatever that is, however you describe your life. And the last one is, you wouldn't be surprised about this one, is the enemy whispers lies. Yes, Satan, if you understand Satan and his devices, he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. Satan will convince us that surrendering means weakness or loss, when in God's kingdom, it actually is the doorway to freedom. So that message was my Sunday message for Youth Sunday at the New Earth Christian Church. Second Sundays, I'm over there. Again, life. People say life be life, and then we have all these different things that we describe life as. But what is your mountain? Have you thought about it? What is your valley? For me, your mountain is your character, your behavior, how you act. You could be a great person and have a bad attitude, right? What is your valley? Your emotional state, your behavior. What is that? Your feelings. You lack patience. What is it? What is that? What is your valley? Because sometimes either one of those can take us out, or if it can feel like it takes us out. So you got to do that. You got to figure out what that is for yourself. Don't describe life. Say what it is. Find somebody you have confidence in that you can talk to and say what's on your mind so you can get free and get some real support instead of just saying that you're struggling. All right. That's my message for today based off of that. All right. We got my guest is here. Again, this conversation, literally, we put it together a couple of days ago. I usually book my shows out a week at a time, just in case I have to take off a Wednesday or I won't be able to be here. I thought I was going to be out this Wednesday, but plans changed. And so I was looking at, again, I've been doing the Trench Talk show since 2013. I launched that at officially at LA Talk Live in 2013. And then a couple of years back, I started doing a conversation called Black GI Radio. And that is where, I'm a Black veteran, and I wanted to help or share stories of our Black veterans, give them a platform, give us a platform to share our experiences. And so, I combined those two shows together. So there's still the Trench Talk segment, but also there is a Black GI Radio. You may not notice, but I was the president of a NABVets chapter for a little stint of a time. I gave it a shot. Definitely a great organization helping Black veterans. Had some great talks, some great times, great interviews over there. And then that came to an end. And so still they're out helping Black veterans get connected to their benefits. There's just a whole conversation about that, right? And again, that goes back to how we objectify and label one another. Even as we talk and we say black, white, don't realize that because I say it or articulate that, sometimes it disconnects us from our human being connection, right? So sometimes those labels disconnect us. yes, we want to take care of our brothers and sisters in arms and complete. And when we do that, and however, there are some that, we need a specific conversation so that we can help people who are, African Americans or whatever your background is, may need that culture advice, that culture relationship, that culture connection first. Because once you realize that we're not different, then you're free to even talk to different people and don't even see color. As we say, we don't see color, but sometimes people still see the color. So I'm gonna play a PSA and come back. Anthony, Mr. Williams we are not strangers, but he is here to definitely have a conversation that I even felt was right on time. I was talking to one of my military partners who retired recently, and we were talking about a business and things like that. And it was, literally was just that morning of, and, I was just sharing with him kind of the things that I've been up to, even my fears of having a disabled veteran small business and the responsibility that feels like, again, the future of uncertainty. But Mr. Williams is here, is going to share, some insights on what that is to be a veteran entrepreneur. And so if you have some questions, you can put them in the chat. Or reach out to me at Farron Dozier on all the streaming platforms and leave a message there, and we will get your questions answered. All right, we'll be right back on the Farron Dozier Show on Military Broadcast Radio.
Some of us still carry the burden of battle. It threatens to drown us in our everyday lives. In battle, we had our weapons and combat gear to keep us safe, to keep us confident. But when we returned home, we were not armed with weapons and gear to cope with our own minds. I was lucky to find my combat gear, my mental weapon, and it's called Calmago. Calmago is a drug-free device that allows you to achieve calm in less than 3 minutes in moments of anxiety, stress, anger, panic, or insomnia, not with medication, but rather by activating the parasympathetic nervous system through breathing regulation and multisensory stimulation. A recent study has shown that Calmago decreases PTSD and anxiety levels in veterans, helping those who are suffering and having a long-lasting effect. Visit Calmago.com to learn how you can get Calmago through the VA or with a special veterans discount code.
All right, we're back to the Farron Dozier Show on MB Radio. That's right, MB Radio. Right here. You catch us streaming from YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Roku TV. Yes, we got on Roku TV right now too, so you can catch me streaming over there. From service to success, and this is again is important for us as a veteran community, and I say that as a relatedness to myself because when that career came to an end, I was lost in my rank. I was lost in my camouflage. I didn't know who Farron was, and I made that mean my life was over. Now, it wasn't, but that's what I made it mean. And so we have conversations with our veteran community, even athletes of sports. This is not just for veterans, that when that transition and that change happens, maybe that career is over, that uniform comes off, you got to find out what's next. And discovering what's next, again, with what I was saying about surrendering, sometimes that future of uncertainty is you're so far out in the future, you can't control the outcomes. And so you have anxiety today. That's how I articulate that, right? So yeah, as veterans, we need to figure out what's next. Sometimes that pride, that uniform, it comes with a lot of pride, a lot of ego, a lot of identity, right? But how can we take that conversation and transition that if you don't want to get a job, or say you are you're on disability and you still want to have a business, or there's things that you want to accomplish in life, can you do that? Does your benefits allow you to have a job, have a business? So those are the kind of things we want to have a talk today around, from service to success. And I'm sure he's going to be able to answer a lot of questions. This brother has been at this for a while now. And so I have confidence in his conversation. Like I said, we're not strangers. But again, if you're listening and you're a veteran and you're trying to figure out what's next, even having a business in radio, even having a business of your hobbies, those are things that you can create that a lot of times we're looking. So I'm looking for stuff that fulfills me more than pays me, right? And so when you get out of the job mindset and get into the work, and then you find that thing that you would do if nobody paid you, I would travel anywhere on the planet to do my sickle cell trait talk, and I've done it. without being paid, right? And use my own money to get there because I know that that conversation is that important. And that became my what's next. Right? I have a small nonprofit that supports that. So when I discovered my what's next in that conversation, man, my whole world opened up. I found 300 million people that have sickle cell trait and millions more that needed my voice, that need my voice still today. So now I went from defending this country to actually defending the community that have had health complications, experienced things like myself. And that could be a job. That could be a company. It could be more than just a nonprofit. It could be a full-on business, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. Part of my conversation is what is your what's next? And I'm going to bring to the table Mr. Williams. How you doing, sir?
Thank you very much, Farron. It's good to be here with our veteran community. I'm Anthony Williams. 21-year Navy veteran. I retired in 1998, Farron. So I've been retired for quite some time. So
yeah.
And through no projection of my own, when I first retired, I had a couple of jobs, and I was successful in those jobs, but I was always looking to promote, like we do in the military. We're looking to promote.
Right.
We have our own standard of what's tolerated in our culture while at work. And so I found myself, as I was matriculating the first 7 years through my retirement, I had good jobs. And then I got on the wrong side of the equation. Now, here's where that entrepreneurial thing will kick in.
Yeah.
I was a human resource manager for 2 of the box retail stores.
Okay.
Got on the wrong side of an equation, and it got really ugly. So I said, well, I'm going to resign. And there was a contingency that didn't want me to resign, and then there was contingency that needed me to resign. You know what I mean? So I called one of my Navy buddies. I said, look, dude, this is not the industry for me, this human resource management. He said, come to DC and work for me, and you're going to be a contracting officer for government contracting section.
Whoa.
And he had retired like a year before I did, Farron.
Okay.
And he got a call, went to Washington. He was from Louisiana, went to Washington, D.C., became a part of a internship. And by that time, in 8 years, he was a manager, logistics manager.
Wow.
So he had these companies that were defense contractors, and they were getting ready to build 2 new weapon systems. In the Navy, in the Army, you call them weapon systems. In the Navy, we call them ships, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I go to D.C. I left Southern California, went to D.C., and I was nervous, and I didn't want to let him down because he was paying me a lot of money. He said, you got 6 months to ramp up. I know you well enough to know that you'll get on board and you'll hit the ground running when we actually start.
Wow.
And it was like introducing me to something that I should have been a part of from day one, right? And I learned about contracting. I learned about small businesses. I developed an empathy for small businesses. And working in the federal system, I saw how money flowed, who got the opportunities, who and why they got the opportunities. So as I'm putting all these things together, I got real good at my craft. I learned some great stuff. I came back to California as a senior project manager, did the hiring and firing for the company, huge wage, well in the 6 figures. And once we got everybody hired and all the contracts negotiated, the admiral down in San Diego said, hey, this position really should be a GS position.
Oh.
And he said, because, we're paying this guy a really nice sum. We could get this done as a GS 13, which was half of what I was making, right?
Exactly.
And I wrote the position description, and this is how working on a job can be constricting. Now, we all worked in the military, but there was something because our goals, the way we processed the information was well defined. So we knew what we had to do, and we knew how we had to perform to get the notoriety to get promoted.
Right.
Well, this job, the admiral said, yeah, we're going to turn this into a GS job, 13. And hey, we'll have this guy, me, write the position description. And, I had an HR background. I wrote the position description. We put it in the USA Jobs. I said, well, I got to apply for it, even though I didn't want to drive from the Inland Empire to San Diego every day.
Wow.
For that particular job for Ron, I didn't even qualify for a job that I had been doing.
What?
And for a job in which I wrote the position description.
What?
That shows you the volatility sometimes in the job market.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what am I going to do? Then I said, okay, I'm getting older. And this was a great experience, but it was tough. So along the way, a couple of veterans out in the Inland Empire, I was living in Rancho at the time. They said, hey, Anthony, can you write a business plan? I said, yeah. How much would you charge? Well, the first one I did for free, but it was a lot of work. He referred some other people, and I wrote 3 or 4 business plans. Then they were talking about, well, we need to get certified. So I said, oh, I know how to do that. I dealt with that. These were things I had dealt with working for Naval Systems Engineering.
Right.
And sure enough, I started getting good at it, but I also started working with the strategy with the owner and the things that as a small business you need to know and understand and have a system set up so you can generate revenue. It's all about generating revenue.
Right.
So as I got every year, Farron, I got better and better. And we met, I think, a couple of years after I had asked to be the commander for the National Association for Black Veterans Greater Los Angeles chapter. Yeah. But I've always been an independent contractor and a business developer for small businesses.
Yeah.
I was on the County of Los Angeles Small Business Commission, learned a lot there. So as you go along and you pick up these skills, there are so many opportunities in the 21st century, in the 2020s, for military veterans to utilize what they do, what they know, and what they enjoy doing, and work in that capacity.
Right.
And start their own business.
Right.
And sometimes you got to work over here and start this business and do both just to get some traction and generate revenue. It is a tough evolution, but once you get to a threshold where you're building your market, and you're getting revenue, just like you in broadcasting. Once you have advertisers who are looking at your numbers and they're saying, yeah, we're going to choose this guy and we're going to pay him. And then you just have to do what you love, keep interesting topics and addressing your target market.
Right.
Those were some of the things that, as I was learning, and I had all of these things down and I knew them, but there were nuances where I knew I could help even more than, say, going to a course for the SBA on small business, or going to the county of Los Angeles and saying, hey, we're training our small businesses on how to start small businesses. Yeah, but are you getting down beneath the surface?
No.
So they can genuinely figure out, do I have a chance to be successful?
Right.
And sometimes some hard truths come available. But do you know what the fastest demographic of growing entrepreneurs is?
I do.
Veterans.
Yeah.
Veterans are getting out of the service, whether they did 1 tour, 4 years, or like you, 24, or like me,
24.
21. You know, it's getting out and saying, you know, I'm well-rounded. I understand how systems work. I have a product, a commodity, a service that has value. And so what do I have to do to turn my expertise, my access to products, my access to these commodities, my ability to perform and execute and bring value to these services? What do I have to do to start? And if you don't start right.
So let's go out. And I appreciate you for painting that picture and sharing your story and the context for this conversation, because I want to ask you right there. You said, what do I have to do? Right. But if for us as veterans, like I said, for that transition, not everybody has a difficult transition, right? Some people are prepared more than others, right? And so when we take that class, when you're gonna that exit briefing, and they tell you, hey, you know what? That first, second, or third job is not going to be your last job. So get it, go through the process, get it out of your system, right? Go through the trials, get your resume, right? So I remember that. Even though I was in my mind that life was over, I remember going through those classes to exit, right? But I ask you, and I want to ask this to my veteran community, a lot of times we ask each other, well, what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? But what I've learned for myself is that we can't discount the human experience, right? So who do I have to become to be the person to do that kind of work is what I share from, because you could be afraid, frustrated, upset, you know, all the fear and doubt, and then you're still doing it, but you're doing it in a way that you're still not, the confidence is not there, or the doubt is still there. So I've done a lot of stuff that I had upset and frustration and doubt, but I was still doing it, but my experience was horrible. And then it was my experience that made me quit, and not that I couldn't accomplish the mission. It was how I was feeling about the mission, about myself. Am I good enough? Am I worth it? Am I smart enough? Am I this? Am I that? That part of the conversation, what do you see it with that?
I agree with everything you just said. A lot of the business owners, even me as a business developer, you know, taking on a client, you know, does the client have, and do I have the capacity to turn his product, commodity, process into a winning proposition?
Right.
And I've took some L's with clients, and I've had some W's with clients.
Yeah.
Human nature is the biggest deterrent to your success.
Definitely.
One of the things we do as military service members, when we were on active duty, particularly guys like you and me, Farron, because we were on for 20 years plus, you grind through, you know, and even when you achieve rank, you have to, now you're responsible for those people that your subordinates and those people you supervise. You're responsible for not just what they do when it comes to their jobs, but also positioning them into how they can be successful and they can promote.
Exactly.
And I was a trainer, and you know, I went to the Navy Master Training course, and the TCM. They used to have something called TCM. I don't know if you were on active duty when they had it. It was called Total Quality Management, TQM, not TCM, TQM. And it was who we were, how to lead men, how to make yourself indispensable, and how to build confidence. And believe it or not, I hung up my shingle in 2013. So for the last 12 years, I've evolved to a point where I understand small businesses. But I also have learned that those things you discussed, the feelings of being inadequate and how can I compete? I need somebody to hold my hand through this.
Right.
I need, will my process work? Will I have enough listeners or viewers?
Right.
Can I sell enough of my snacks? How can I get into this market? There's so many questions that you have to ask yourself that it can take an impact and a toll on you.
And for me, it's like, so I share, at church, even with the 3rd and 4th, 5th graders that we teach emotional intelligence to, middle school students, a lot of times that self-talk gets in the way.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you understand hope, right? You have hope, but then also mixed with hope is hopelessness, is mixed with disappointment, it's mixed with despair, and it expresses itself as self-loathing, and then sometimes it comes out as why even bother? And so you want to do it, but you don't even take an action because you go through all of those filters, a lot of fear-based kind of conversation to yourself.
Entrepreneurship is for those who know how to grind, who know that they lost this one, but I'm going to win the next one. Do you see what I'm saying?
I don't know if I got that.
Yeah, and I didn't get this, but you know what?
I don't know if I got that.
I'm gonna get this next one. and having those things, like I got a list of things that you need as a small business owner. You got to pick a business name, create your a website, do the market research, write a business plan, do a pitch deck. All of these things, those are basic stuff that you have to do. But even in doing those things, they don't guarantee your success. What guarantees your success is building relationships, knowing where to go and who to talk to, and knowing how to pitch to people your product. I work with a lot of veteran-owned small businesses, and I had the luxury, Farron, of the last 11 and a half years of my Navy career, I was in recruiting. I didn't volunteer, but when they put me in recruiting, it was like throwing a fish in the water. That was that was what I was meant.
You had a lot of practice over there.
Oh, without question. But I always was curious about the statistics and the analytics. And I'm like, okay. And believe me, that was great and fun and fascinating as I learned who will do what, and it was so competitive because I started it back in 86,
I was 16.
And it was dog eat dog. Ronald Reagan wanted to have a so many million man army, and we want to have Marines increase their personnel, and we're going to put 600 ships in our Navy, and they needed people to service these, right?
Right.
And boy, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, it was dog eat dog. But in a way, it was fun because you had to, and I loved to compete. I had to be smarter, more aware, and out hustle my competitors.
Yeah.
And that was the foundation that, after I retired, I'm like, that was hard and I learned a lot, but let me get this good job. Well,
yeah.
sometimes in the civilian job market, you have more restrictions than you do in the military. And you got to walk on eggshells sometimes.
Yeah.
And certain people have to like you. And I said, well, I need to be somewhere where people look at my productivity and the things I can bring and the value I can bring and be rewarded for that. So what happens in business, you have to feel that way. You have a very fundamentally sound podcast.
Yeah.
I loved what you were saying. I was listening, how you articulated it. There is a connection with you and all the veterans, regardless of the cultural background, because there's something that connects all of us veterans.
Yes.
Now, in order to grow that and to market that, then we got to take a look at how to access that particular market.
Right.
You need it.
So here's the thing, right? I've learned in my 15 years of broadcasting, shouts out to Ilya Daly of Ask Ilya. When I started, he was like, after I had already started, but when I met him in like 15, he was like, hey, you know what? You got to remove your ego, because this radio, because he's been in radio for 30 plus years, right? So back then he was telling me, you need to remove your ego because your ego will keep you stuck, limited, right? And so I came into this podcasting on Blog Talk Radio, right, out of depression and suicide ideation and anxiety. So this was an outlet for me. I didn't have an idea of being in front of you today back in 2009. It was more like, how am I going to stay alive? And I lived each week into those episodes, right, of doing those sports talk shows. And I wasn't even really doing the sports talk. My buddy was. I was just on there just trying to joke and stay alive, right? Because I had lost interest in sports. But the hobby became a platform.
But then once it becomes a platform and every week you get better, you get more comfortable, it's getting your reps in.
Yeah.
And I tell that to my small business clients. I'm working, and I'm a storyteller, so bear with me. I'm working with a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. And he's really good, but he was working in this particular industry for another company, a big company. But he saw where he could say, I was always wanting to start my own company. Yeah. Now he's very good, and I hope your audience will listen. He's very good at his craft. He's very good at his craft.
Yeah.
But he's got to be strategic. Yeah. He's got to build relationships. Yeah. He's got to know how to market his business, because his business becomes his baby.
Yeah.
And if you're a father, when that baby starts off, he's totally dependent on you.
It's like having a child, let me tell you.
Absolutely. And you have to start thinking outside yourself. Yeah. That success or failure may or may not be because of you.
Yeah, I believe me. That's me. And that's why I haven't created that disabled veteran small business, because I have been going through the hoops of peeling off all the stuff from the military. Then I had to go back and peel off all of the stuff from my environment that I grew up in, right? So now you talk about your relationship with your parents and your peers, and we don't realize that all that stuff gets in the way of how you're saying that you got to go create a relationship. But if you got an attitude with people, how you gonna create a relationship? If you're protecting yourself, right? And the attitude is not from an attitude, but the attitude is from, I'm afraid of being disappointed. I'm afraid of the no. I don't want to hear a no, so I can't. No, if I get a no, it's the no is to Farron. But what I had to learn was the no is not to Farron. The no is to the conversation.
The no is
myself
Absolutely.
from the no. And I'm almost separated, but I'm still on that piece that's holding on.
You know, for
no.
Ron, you said something that is the vanguard of business, small business.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot take the no personally.
Yeah.
You have to evaluate the no. You have to take a look. Well, why did he say that? It might not have. You could, you know. And here's what I.
But it's my baby, though. But this is my baby.
But I teach business classes, right?
Oh gosh.
So one of the things I let them know that don't take the no to mean that your service, your product, your commodity isn't excellent. You have to consider what the context of the no was, who said the no, what may or may not be behind the no, and then you got to put it. Absolutely, but you can't dwell on it, Farron. You got to be able to move to that next episode.
Yeah.
And I told you about this guy. He's really good, and I'm helping him build his business. And he's a forward-thinking guy. He's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I got another guy, veteran. I love him to death, but we're bidding on a contract. He just complained the whole time. Well, I got to put this. I said, well, wait a minute. Why are you putting this? Because your bid has to be attractive. So the contractors will say, yeah, this guy has the background, the certifications.
Right.
But you're saying, oh, well, they're going to try to dog me. No, this is a government contract. You'll get paid, but you got to execute and you got to meet the threshold of their criteria.
Right.
And he said, well, I want to put this. I said, no, you can't put. And as I'm telling him this, he's fighting tooth and nail because it dawned on me that this is not about his capacity to do the job, because he has the capacity to do the job.
What was
this is about his insecurities.
Ooh, wee. Ooh, wee. Ooh.
And
ooh, I can feel that.
And it's just, and like I say, I love him to death, but I said, you make a living, but you could build a business, and making a living, because it's what you do when you leave your job and you say, I can only eat what I kill. Now we're blessed because we have pensions, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit different for us.
And it's a little bit different for us. So we have, and I have other things that, okay, I don't really have to only be able to eat the things I kill.
Right.
But here's what happens. I have to have that attitude even when I deal with clients. Because people are the stiflers of small business.
Yeah.
If you have a small business and you have determination, the prerequisite is a skill set. For Ron, you have the skill set. You've been doing this podcast. You're familiar with everything you have to do to get ready, and you assess the topics for conversation, and now you just have to get an interesting guest or put out to your listening audience things that they're going to say, I like that. That's interesting.
Right.
Okay. So, and that's part of the product that you have.
Yeah.
But if you cannot get over the no, or get over that bad week you had, or get over the fact that I got to find some investors who believe in me.
Right.
And then even after I get the investment capital, that's just the beginning of the stress.
Right. Exactly. Right. That's just the start.
Absolutely. Because I need to build and grow.
Yeah.
And then one of the essential things, and I'm telling your veteran audience this: find people that you trust.
Yes.
And that's not easy. What do we used to say in the military? Trust but verify.
So let me say something about that, right?
Yeah.
Because again, in my own personal development, and then being in church the last 6 years, right? Full force relationship with Christ, I learned even by the scripture says, trust in the Lord and have confidence in man, right?
Yeah.
So when I got that scripture for myself, Anthony, I was like, oh shoot, I'm not supposed to trust man anyway.
Yep.
Right? So then I said to myself, well then, okay, if it's confidence, okay, I could have confidence in man, but then I had to look at myself first and say, okay, Farron, how much confidence do you have? And that's what the CBT came from the cognitive behavior, right? Because now I'm talking to myself about myself, and I say, well, what percentage of confidence does Farron have? And I said, well, shoot, I don't have 100% confidence in myself. So then why would I put, but saying, why would I put 100% confidence in someone else when I don't have it in myself, right? So then I could say, I have about 80% confidence in myself, and that 20% that I don't have, I got to look and see where that's coming from, because it's a lack of.
No realistic individual, no non-narcissistic individual has 100% confidence in themselves. They just die.
But we talk like it though. But we talk and we act like it.
We of course we talk like it, right? But there's always in that little compartment off to the side and in the back, it's just a human behavioral thing that says, yeah, I think I'm good enough. Now we can say, no, I know I'm good enough. Well, that's us psyching ourselves in it and thinking well, tomorrow's going to be a better day. The day was like ugly, but you know what? I'm going to get up tomorrow and I'm going to get back at it, because tomorrow I'm going to accomplish those goals that I set out to.
After the no.
After the no. And so a lot of times I try to help design small businesses that are new in such a way where they can hit the ground running. Yeah. That they can put things and present an image that I know they can do. I know they.
Oh, we got a signal.
Or they've got a great service, but clients and customers say, "You're new to this. I'm not going to give you a chance." Do you see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So to put them in a position where they can acquire the background and the experience, right? And then that confidence starts to swell. The confidence in their capacity to execute. And business entails so many things. Yeah. A lot of small businesses suffer because of their back office. They can't work 10, 12-hour days in their business and then go home and sit down and do administrative stuff. Well, guess what? They got AI, Perplexity, and Chat GPT.
Dude, let's put a pin right there for a second. Put a pin right there. What's your take on AI, Chat GPT, as far as using that as a tool, right?
What's
your view on that, Chat?
Chat GPT is basically like any other computer function. Garbage in, garbage out. You put good information, you think through the questions that you want to ask.
Right.
They'll give you some good feedback.
Yeah.
Perplexity, because they canvass every bit of information on the planet to pull that answer out.
Right.
So Perplexity is a little bit more complex, and I think it's a little bit more conducive to business. And they will write up reports. They'll do a cost benefits analysis and people say, well, why do I need? Yeah, because sometimes you got to do a cost benefits analysis.
Yeah.
I had a company and when I first met them, their gross revenue was 3.2 million. But they only made in net profit $50,000 or $60,000.
What?
Because
what? Don't even add up.
Their structure, their gross revenue was 3.2, but the outlays, the money going out, the thing the owner was doing out of the goodness of his heart by taking care of people who he needed to fire.
Yeah, got you.
By shaking hands with clients where he should have asked or demanded that they send him an email so he could do a change order. So now you asking me to change things after I'm halfway through the job. I need that in writing, because if you don't pay me the new costs that are incurring, I'm going to put a mechanics lien against your business. Or being a small business owner is a tough task. But when you get to a certain point, you're successful.
I've heard.
And it's the freedom that you have.
Yeah. Well, that's what money provides. Money provides freedom.
And entrepreneurs, it's a different generation. I'm a baby boomer, and I was around people who worked 40, 45 years in a factory and retired.
Right.
But now generations have to say, what am I good at? Who sees in me what I see in myself, and my product and my commodity and my processes, and who says, okay, this individual is a winner.
Set apart, huh?
Absolutely. And there's another thing that people run around too, and there are people who are always meeting new wonderful stuff. Oh, this person's going to help me. 2 months later, oh no, this person's going to help. No.
What is that? What is that? Because I see that.
Yeah, I see it too. And
that don't work.
We have a mutual acquaintance that goes through that, and my heart goes out to them. But I'm like, stick to a plan. Develop a plan, stick to the plan, market yourself, and set up whatever the business is you set up. Set that business up in a way where the percentage of success increases when you put all the pieces together. It's basic stuff like, who are you competing against? What is my business's brand? What is your podcast brand? How can you make sure you have a target market, which you do, which is the best? How do I access them?
Yeah.
And what are they interested in talking about?
Right. Setting up that you talked about, changing partners. Oh, I found this person that I want to work with. I want to find this person. In that, if I'm correct, in that disabled veteran small business, you can own 100%, or you can find a partner that has 49%, and you have to have 51%, so you can be the majority.
You have to have 52% if you're married and got 51% in the state of California, and your wife has to sign an affidavit that you got 52%, because technically your wife is in the state of California, community property owns half of your business. She might be making $1 million, you might be making 100,000. She owns 50,000 of that.
We ain't got that problem, so we good.
Yeah. So but
if I say I have someone, right? So say I have a person who has been in this world, right, and has a history of 30, 40 years and has a business, and I want to partner with him with my talk, can he become that 49% and I be the 51?
Absolutely. As long as you have it in black and white, as long as your articles of incorporation and your organizational, your OA, organizational administration charts, they say that,
Mhm.
you know, and if it's 51%, that means you can get certified as a service disabled veteran owned small business, which means that your company can be more competitive.
Mhm.
I'm working on a project and we just concluded it earlier today
Mhm.
where it's a set aside for service disabled veterans on
That's what
small
I
business.
want to get into. I know about that one.
And so what happens is I'm saying, okay, this is a big ticket. And the agencies, the federal agencies, the counties, the state, the city,
I know.
they're not stupid. So they know there's going to be at least 3, if not more, service disabled veteran owned small businesses that they done their research on that can execute this $20 million contract.
Wow.
And just like in sports, anything, once you experience success,
Yeah.
and you get that under your belt,
Yeah.
you get better at it the second time.
Right.
Once you get that second time under your belt, now you get better at it the third time. Now I can look around corners. I can see around corners where the pothole, I know where all the potholes in the road are, you know, and that's how you build and grow a business.
Yeah.
You know, and
it's that initial start, the paperwork process. Like you said, you got to go either meet with somebody like yourself or go to the meetings of the small business meetings, get a sit down. You know, there's a whole, like, you got to initiate. I got to initiate that part, right?
Yeah. And you want to have, like I was talking about, you want to have you got a website, but say you are a telecommunications installer that, you know, you install telecom systems, you install any kind of technology systems, and that's what you do. You're good at your craft. Well, now you still want to do your own professional website. You want to look at the market. You want to find out what my competitors, not only what they're doing, how successful are they, and what is their pricing?
Right.
What is their price point?
Right.
Now, then ask yourself, who do I know that really knows I'm good at this craft that I can now go to and say, here's my company. You got this job, subcontract out. So what that does, it builds your business has a resume just like you do.
Yeah.
Except they call it capability statements or capacity statements.
Mm-hmm.
But all of those other things, you want to have them and have access to them. You know, like writing a business plan. I don't call it writing a business plan. To me, it's writing a strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
It's business, but it also says that once I get to a certain threshold, I'm going to diversify my portfolio.
Mm-hmm. Because
this is adjacent to this. And if I can do this, I should be able to add these components, the tasking, to what I do, so I can have multiple sources of revenue.
Right. TV, broadcasting, radio.
Absolutely. And have the flexibility that people are always calling me because I am good at my craft and I understand how to make them money.
Yeah. Man.
And you can understand that without sacrificing who you are. You know, some people go hard particular, like let's take your industry, broadcasting.
Yeah.
There's so many people with podcasts that need to
I
be
know.
home,
Right.
you know, and or they taking so much content from other people that they're saying 50 words in 14 minutes, but they're getting the clicks because of the subject matter. But then you say, well, wait a minute.
Exactly.
What did this person contribute? You know, I mean, and it's finding what you have to do, and what you do really well, Farron, is that you have a spiritual based approach that also expresses your background of 24 years in the military, your empathy, not sympathy, but your empathy for all of these veterans.
Yeah.
And what are you going through? Let's help you get to a better place.
Yeah.
And that is a commodity. That's a commodity that the VA might be able to look at and use. CalVet. There might be, you never know who's going to say, I like that. And we have a market for that.
Yeah.
You know, and then you might want to segue from just veterans and to just people out in the world.
Yeah. Well, that's the main. Actually, that's the Sunday show, and this one too. I just, it became a variety show. But
okay,
I do have my points. But as you said, and I appreciate you saying that. After I figured out what I was dealing with, I can only imagine what other people are dealing with, right? And how we suffer in silence. And I know I suffered in silence for years, man. And to be able to come out on the other side of that and articulate that and own my past so I could share it freely, it's a different world. It's a different kind of person. And I appreciate you saying that. But it took a lot of work to get to be like that kind of person, though.
And you can assist and help expedite that work that's done, whether they're veterans trying to start a business, or they're veterans that are contemplating suicide, or there are veterans who feel lost.
Right.
And where do I go? What do I do? Who can empathize with me? Who understands? Right. And
I would do that without having a business, though. See what I'm saying? Like I do that from the freedom of my heart, right? And for what I believe in Christ. So to put that into a business would be awesome, but I'm still going to be that person, whether I'm doing it with my sickle cell trait talk or sports talk or veteran talk or church with the parents and the children. It's just who I get to be.
And that is a beautiful thing, Farron, but if you're going to have the business, have your business set up the right way. There's 14 or 15 things that you need. Your business plan, a pitch deck. Yeah, when you're starting out, particularly in your industry, you don't necessarily, you know what? Yes, you do. You would need a pitch deck. Like, okay, here's my show and here's my core audience and here's what the responses are. Then, find some investors or find a grant for veterans starting small businesses, right? In your case, and so you got cash flow. And then say, okay, well, who else is doing what I'm doing? Right? And then brand your business. This is Farron's brand. We know that if we tune into his podcast, his show, here's what we're going to find out. Something that is a nugget that we didn't realize, something that touches us in a way that nobody else really does.
Yeah.
And somebody who's encouraging and supporting us from a spiritual plane that allows us to get better and to grow and to be whole again.
Yeah.
And then if that's your brand, then you make your business official. Yeah, put your tax ID and set up an accounting system, and then build a strong team. Like, okay, I want to take this show. I want to be on 12 hours a day. So how do I create content? So I got these other veterans that, I got a veteran comedian. I have a guy who I met. He's a veteran. He's a comedian, and he does comedy, and he does some raunchy comedy, but he's a funny guy.
Yeah.
But during the day, he works as a VSO at the VA, a veteran service officer at the VA, right?
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, you ever thought about getting a podcast? And he said, man, I ain't there yet, but and he is trying to get traction in that industry.
Yeah.
He is an entrepreneur, but people should understand that even a comedian is a small business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to look at your performance, your capacity, the revenue, what you're spending to make that revenue, all of those things, which is the essential and the very fundamentals of building a business, knowing your numbers.
Yeah. And so for this, I want to touch on this before we get out of here too, because I've always thought about this, maybe because anyway, I always looked at the fact that how us as veterans, we come out of the military with all these different backgrounds and job skills, and we don't unite and create a business together. You got generator mechanics, you got all these different kind of mechanics, and we got all these skills. And why do we? I don't know. I know in my area, I don't see that where the four of us come together, and you could do this, I do that, and none of us cross each other's paths. So we all work together in our own lane and create a business together as 4 or 5 veterans. Like, why don't I see that anywhere?
I have tried so hard to encourage veterans to do joint ventures, to do limited liability partnerships.
Yeah.
But people, why, they start asking questions, and they don't see that together they make a bigger imprint. They can get a bigger slice of the pie.
See what I'm saying?
Get the experience and continue to grow.
I'm gonna try it.
That's what I would do if I were you.
Try it. I got a couple guys that have that idea. They see that vision, and the 3 of us want to come together and do a business with all 3 of us together, though, right? Because each one of us has a particular lane to help run that business, right? Like you were saying, you can't just do all of it yourself. But what do you see that gets in the way of us as veterans coming together, uniting as a squad, as a platoon, and be like, hey, okay, this is your responsibility, this is yours, and somebody's got to be in charge, but we all work together.
The only challenge is the very people that you're working with. But let me go through this real quick, because you bringing that up.
Okay.
You have to truly believe in your idea. If you say, hey, these 2 cats, and you put it out there plainly, we can do all of these things if we do it collectively.
Right.
And we do it collectively. Here's how we're going to share the revenue.
Right.
And they got to know that, we have to be prepared to face failure. Face the fear of failure. You've gone through that.
That's the first hurdle, right? You got to be okay with that, though.
Yeah, but you believed in your idea, and that overrides your fear of failure, because 20+% of businesses fall in the first year. In the first 5 years, it's up to 60%, with 40% that believe in themselves, that have dealt with the fear of failure, that are getting up the next day after they've been knocked down that hill and dusting themselves off and crawling back up that hill. Those are the ones that stay in business. And you got to keep learning. You can never get in your craft, in your business, and say, well, I'm making money now. I know it all. No, you always want to keep learning.
Yeah.
You always want to keep learning. I have taken, I teach business courses, but I've taken AI courses because I wanted to know more about how I can talk to my small business clients on how to utilize AI. And I wasn't quite knowledgeable, so I took a couple of AI courses.
You good with AI? I know you good with AI.
I'm sort of, kind of.
I mean, I'm saying you encourage using AI.
I encourage. I encourage it.
Encourage it?
I thought you talking about me teaching it.
No. I'm saying encourage as a tool.
Yes,
as a tool for sure.
Absolutely, because it's cost effective.
Yeah,
and it's cost effective. Yeah. And then you got to be able to secure financing, and however you do that is however you
can AI all night, but if you don't get secure no finances, they ain't doing nothing.
Absolutely. and you can manage your time. You can manage your time. So you can say, well, I got a 2-hour podcast today, but I need to learn these new things, or I need to market myself, and I'm gonna set 3 hours aside for this, and then I'm gonna spend an hour preparing, 2 hours preparing for my podcast, do my podcast. Now I got my day plan.
Yeah. That gives you that sense of, even for podcasting, there's a sense of belonging, and that's why the ego's got to get out of the way of that, right?
Yep.
I got the sense of belonging, but then is my attitude going to get in the way of my success? Because I gotta be aware of how pride and all that shows up, especially if it's going to be in my craft. And that was, like I said, that's one of the things that I had to learn. I don't really have to learn how to remove it, but I did catch myself. You know what I caught myself with though with my shows? It was the admiration. And there's nothing wrong with admiration, but if it's coming from a space of pride, then you got to check that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
I've learned. So I've gone through those layers of peeling off, who Farron is and who I get to be, where I'm settled with that. I don't have an ego in this conversation. And sometimes I've been doing it for 15 years and I mess up just like, I mess up like it's my first time, but you got to be able, like you say, there are certain areas so you know how people use the word resilience?
Yep.
Okay. So again, I get resilience in one aspect of what the soul needs. The soul needs resilience, but really we want perseverance, right? Because if I tell the truth, as you were saying this whole show, you got to be able to bounce back. And human beings, it's hard for us to bounce back when it's not fun anymore, right? And so we use resilience as a badge when I'm really like I ain't really having fun no more. This is hard. But when I looked at the scripture, and I saw perseverance, that's the spiritual context of pushing through, man.
And that's what puts you on the grind. You did to say, I'm going to grind through this.
Yeah.
I'm going to get up tomorrow. Now that the individual I told you that's I think the world of him, but he is meant to just be a small business.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't wrap his head around the kind of things that are not a part of his subject matter expertise.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to do this and adjust that so you can fit in, be successful, and grow.
And grow. I was gonna say and grow, right? You got it. You want to be able to grow. Yeah.
And I just couldn't get him to I said, why are you giving me this document, this unprofessional, and you got to show a level of sophistication.
Yeah.
And interestingly,
yeah,
he is so skeptical of people, and I'm thinking like, okay,
he been hurt before or something. He been taken advantage of or hurt, or there's something going on in the background of that.
But he is really good at his craft. Yeah. And to be good at your craft, you have to develop relationships. And you don't see too many of those small business courses by the SBA or by the county or by Chamber of Commerce. They'll bring somebody in to do a virtual business course. They don't tell you the importance of networking and relationships.
Yeah, that part right there.
Right?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
when I first started off about 5, maybe 6 years into this, so we're talking about 2018, 2019, I had some clients and former clients. It was about 60-40, 60% like, oh man, I'm glad this guy was an asset. He brought value to the business. Then I had 40% saying, man, I hate that guy. He didn't do nothing. But they never asked themselves, well, did you listen to what he was saying? Did you listen to him say, do not go down, do not choose door B, choose door D, and you chose door B, and now you're saying, and learning and knowing that people will always fail you. You have to be able to get over that too, at doing what I do. Yeah. But I enjoy working with small businesses. I love working with veteran-owned small businesses. And sometimes it's to be what in those mob movies they call your consigliere, your consigliere. And I'm a good wartime consigliere. And when it comes to small businesses and when it comes to, which way is the wind blowing? Okay. The wind is blowing your way.
So the people that work with you gotta have a level of high confidence, almost trust your judgment. Like they gotta
trust my judgment. Yeah.
You gotta come in with trusting your judgment, regardless of what it looks like right now.
Yeah, they gotta trust my judgment. Yeah. And because they're paying me to trust my judgment.
Yeah.
So they got to trust my judgment and that I'm going to put them in a position to do better, to have more structure, to have fewer problems. Because when you have your system streamlined, just like when we were in the military, the processes that we learned were to diminish any bumps in the road.
Right.
We drilled and trained to diminish any bumps in the roads, any roadblocks. No, we get this right, do this right, and you will become the star of the end result.
Yeah. And survive.
Yes.
You're learning that training in the military to survive those episodes.
Absolutely.
Sure. But before we get out of here, you got about 8 minutes before we get out of here. Out of all the things we started this conversation off with, what do you want to say to the veteran community that are right there on the edge, like myself, that has the skills, that has the knowledge, that could even pull a couple of people together to create this small business, right?
That is the way of the world. And what I mean by this is the economy. We're in the 21st century. Those 45-year working at the same place, that's come and gone.
Yeah.
Connect with people, network with people, use a common goal, and leverage your skill set. Because one of the things, I tell people when I promote veteran businesses, DOD is the best trainers in the world. So it doesn't make any difference if you're in the Navy, Air Force, Marines, Army, Coast Guard, even Coast Guard.
Right.
You are trained above and beyond. So if a veteran comes to work on your job, or if a veteran business, if you want to hire a veteran business to execute a contract, they will do that because they've been trained to do that. And that's where, and that is something our veteran community can look at in the mirror and say, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
And just know that, like I say, the biggest demographic of new entrepreneurs are veterans.
Wow.
But a lot of them don't have the knowledge or the resource to say, man, I want to be an entrepreneur, but I want to do this. Well, wait a minute. Your expertise is over here. Why don't you start doing this, and then we can segue and add that over there to your portfolio. You build a successful business, a business that's so successful that
you have the money. You have the money to do the other thing too, right?
And somebody will say, hey, I want to buy your business. Okay, make me an offer I can't refuse.
Oh, so you talk about creating a business and then selling it later?
Yeah, unless you want to, well, unless you create it and sell it and then create something else.
I got you. Wow. Do you know veteran businesses that are up for sale right now? Are you in that same world too, or is that a different world?
I'd have to do my research. I don't know too many veteran-owned businesses that are for sale.
Yeah,
but there are businesses in the Los Angeles, Riverside, San Bernardino County, Orange County area that some businesses you can find. If you do your research, you can find some businesses for sale, and if you do what I call a market assessment, right? And you do it in such a way where you can say, okay, this is the value. This is what I'd be willing to pay. Here is the forecast based on the trend analysis that I can make this much money over these many years if me and my friend buy this business, or me and somebody I trust. And that's another thing too. Sometimes we get with friends, and people lose friendships over.
Don't we?
Yeah, but if you get a guy, I've had to learn mergers and acquisitions. So I learned it from a cat that used to do it at a high level, and he'd say, "Hey, I need you. Could you do this for me? How much you charge me?" Yeah, an hour. And he said, an hour? I said, yeah, I want you to start me off like I'm a rock and teach me about mergers and acquisitions and how to do valuation, not evaluation, but valuation on what my business is worth and what the business is worth. And then combine that with great market analysis. Okay, one of the things, 2028 is the Olympics.
Yep.
There are a lot of businesses that you could start and build towards 2028.
Woo, and be ready to go, huh?
And be ready to go.
Woo.
And then whichever way the wind is blowing, then you say, okay, I can do these other things too.
I got one too. I got one because there's the conversation that I have that's so important that it can cause sudden death.
Oh.
And so I've been praying to God for the last 3 years. Like, I want to take this on, and it's a conversation, but it's not being had at the capacity that I could have it, right? That would open me up to a lot of different worlds to be connected to.
It's worth a discussion.
Yeah. I'll talk to you offline. About it. But
all right, thank you so much for inviting me today.
I appreciate you for your knowledge, man, and your storytelling. And I pray that these veterans hear something that gives us that extra, maybe another 2% of courage, right? Another 2% of confidence.
Sometimes that's all it takes. That's all it takes.
Man, thank you again. I'm gonna definitely reach out to you, especially toward the Olympics coming in 2028. So we'll definitely.
Oh yeah,
man. Thank you. Any last words? Anybody want to shout out? Anything you want to say to anybody?
No. Yeah, hey, all my veterans, just know you are supported. Just know by being a veteran, holding that title, you have done this country a service
Yes.
by putting on that uniform and being a part of a demographic that has protected and served this country.
We are about a little close to 2% of the population that serve, right? And that's
Yep.
for our women veterans too. A lot of women veterans don't feel like they're a part of that they earn that veteran status because they whatever you are included in that conversation. So the women veterans, I'm sure there are benefits and contracts out there for women veterans as just as it is.
Without question. Without question. Yes. Yes.
So
very much so.
How can they reach out to you if they want to find you, if they want to talk to you? What if,
you can reach me, and I'll give it to you verbally.
Okay.
909 921 2456 is my telephone number. 909 921 2456. And if you do use that number, just when you call, just say, hey, you were on Farron's podcast, and that helps both me and Farron.
Yeah.
Email me at Anthony D as in Delta, 13 at gmail.com. Anthony DD13 at gmail.com.
I'll make sure it's in the description for the post.
Yeah. Please do.
Spotify. It'll be on the inside of the description of the show, man. Again, man, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you for helping me have this dialogue with our community of veterans. And man,
and maybe in a couple of months I can come back and we can have a discussion
done deal. We can peel up some more layers. Thanks.
All right.
I appreciate it.
Take care, everyone. God bless.
God bless. All right, this is the end of the Farron Dozier Show on MB Radio. That's right, the Military Broadcast Radio Network. MBRadio.us. Go there, check out the other talk shows, the other podcasts from our brothers and sisters in arms and our first responders and their families. Check that out. Any questions, make sure you just hit me up at Farron Dozier on all your streaming platforms, social media platforms. The IE Hounds. If you have a dog, especially with our military community, you have service dogs. I want to capture your story. I want you to share your story here because we have a campaign called For the Love of Dogs. I had to put my dog Daisy down a couple years back and, never dealt with that grief. Now I have an opportunity to have this basketball team be a part of the Inland Empire Hounds. They are professional ABA. That's right, where Dr. J came from. The ABA is still around. They're about 170 teams now, I believe, and we have 3. And so the Inland Empire Hounds, we're going to have a campaign called For the Love of Dogs. So if you want to get involved, you want to brand with us, you want to be a speaker, you want to come out and share what your organization does, if you want to advertise with us, you want to be a part of it. We're looking from breeders all the way to grief counseling, right, for pet owners like myself. There's a lot of people that had to put their dogs down or their dogs passed away, and they haven't dealt with the grief. Some people get another dog right away and replace it. Some of us, like myself, that's family, and you just don't replace family like that. So I'm not ready. My heart is not ready for another dog, although I think about it, but no, my heart's not there. So my contribution is to create this campaign and just get the community involved and see where we can help support these nonprofits that are actually doing the work, that are taking these dogs in, giving them homes or shelters. And now they got to provide food and shots and medical services. So if you have a heart for that, if you care about that, if you have dog love, I'm even talking to people who've been bitten by a dog. Wait until you hear my grandson, who's 6 years old. I'm going to have him on the show. He's going to tell his story about being bit by a dog, his neighbor's dog, at 5 years old, and how that experience was for him. Some people don't like dogs because they've been bitten by a dog. So there's this whole world around dogs. And I want you to be a part of it, whether you want to share your story or have a conversation and brand with us. The IEHounds.com is you can go there, or go to farrond.com. Either way, where you find me, you'll find links to the hounds. All right. I believe I've said enough. We've talked for quite a bit of a long time. So catch me over here. I got link trees for everything that I do. Catch me Sunday nights with the Sports Collective. Shouts out to Robert Lamar and Coach Will. We definitely got some things coming with the Sports Collective. It's football season. high school football. So we got a lot of stuff coming with that. What else I got? We got the sickle cell trait awareness. So go to WDCONSCT for all the community outreach stuff that I do. FarronD.com. That'll attach you to all the talk shows, the church talks, everything that I do right there is connected to the FarronD.com. Again, I appreciate you for tuning and listening in. I'm out of here. Shouts out of What's the Count, the Farron Dozier Show on MB Radio. You want to watch this over, it'll be at the YouTube link or on Spotify and all the other streaming platforms, wherever you get your podcasts. Appreciate y'all. Let's go. Oh, that was like.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.